Yes. Um, Hi, how are you doing? In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a fluent syntax in TypeScript. And the project I'm working on is the CLI builder over here. And it's the version 7. I have already had another videos working on it a little bit. And then, well, I will get into more to the detail. But this video should be pretty short. It's just focus on describing how to create that fluent syntax using type level programming. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So what you see here is the CLI builder. This is the version 7 I'm working on, and I have created a build CLI. And then I have a bunch of code over here. I try to make it work, writing some actual implementation and write tests and so on. But then realize the things I want to do most in this version, which is supporting fluent syntax, is a little bit hard doing it just this way. So I start over, and here is what I have. And first thing, and is that if you want to do a if you want to create a object that support fluent syntax, from what I've tried, it's very likely you cannot do it with the class syntax. And I'll show you why. So here, what I have is I'm just faking. I don't care about the actual implementation, and I just focus on the type level programming. So what that means is I just focus on the type and make sure that the type level works, because in TypeScript, I learned that the type level programming and the actual code behavior can be two separate things. So you were able to separate because the type level programming allows you to describe the behavior differently than what the underlying code can do. So say, for example, type guards, right? Type guards in the actual code, it is just a function returning a Boolean value, right? Excuse me. But in the type level, you can describe it. Okay, instead of this is returning just a Boolean value, it is doing a type guard and saying that the value X is actually of type Y, right? So that's why it's different, and it makes sense to separate it. So right. So and what I have here is I have just a function that return a object, and I'm just saying that it is a CLI builder, right? And in this CLI builder, I have this config. So before I get into config, I want to show you what is the result. So over here, so when I have get this CLI from the CLI builder, I have all these functions, right? And I have the name, value, description. I have all this this default function, this low config function, and low plugin function. So what happened is all of these three functions should only be called once. Excuse me. So low config will tell the CLI builder to the CLI actually to load the configuration from a JSON file or RC file. So of course you only expect it to do once, right? So if I do say, let me do it over here again. I put some information in there, and then let's right now it just say as any for now. I don't care. Then when you change it, you will see the low config is gone, right? And then the same thing, if I do the low config, low plugin, then the low plugin is gone. And then if I do the default, and then the default is gone. And the order can be switched. Say I can define the default first. After I do the default, then the default is gone, and only the low config and low plugin remains, and so on. Right, so you can see that this is working. So let me do it like that. Then the low config is there. So how does it work? Right, the key is this right over here. Account. All right, or want to make sure that there's no warning or error in there. So here's what I have. So first, this is not interesting at the moment, and so just some properties. So in these three functions, the way to do it, let's take a look at the low plugin, and let's take a look at default first, right? The easiest thing. So it use a it use the generics to describe the type of this, and we need that so that we can in the return value we can say omit and default. This omit is the version I use in well, actually this one is the default, the built-in omit, and this works fine in this case, right? So what I did is I get the type of this and then ignore the default, right? That's how I use it. So the thing is, if I don't do that, right, say I get this, then I need to describe what it is, right? And I can say for example, it is a CLI builder of any type, and then let's say it doesn't return anything, then I can still do this, right? I can still do this, a type of this, and then say remove full, right? I can do that. However, if I do that, that means say if I call the default first and then I call full, and the default, let's check empty thing over there. As any, don't really care about that. If I call full, then it doesn't keep track of the fact that default is already gone, because over here I am describing the this is the whole CLI builder. So in order to fix that, you need to use generics. And also when we're using generic, I need to use this partial to make it, because I'm not just doing, just expecting the whole CLI builder, because if I do it like that, then this will fail, because now this that provide here does not satisfy this requirement, because the default is already called. If I didn't call that, these, I think it should be okay. That's because I delete. Let me that there. So if I do this, right, you can see that this is fail, because the default is declared in this CLI builder, and then but if I remove the default, this will be fine, right? So in order to do that, let's do it over here. I have to do this, right, and then say this partial, that will work, right? However, you know, it still have the same problem, and you can also see that it is getting all of this as partial because this is partial. So actually, let's expand that by uh, turning this to a generic so you can see how it progress. Is that I turn this into a builder, then now it have the same problem, so I have to mark this as partial, right? And so yeah, so then now you can see that it will work, and also the optionalness of the this type is gone because it is getting the actual this the actual type of this. So this is how that will work, how to make that work. And so that's a simple case, right? So let's take a look at a slightly more complex case, right? So let me remove the full. So this low plugin and this default is essentially the same. The additional thing is in the default, I am expecting a command. And so in this command, here I equals created. In this default value is expecting a default command. So this command will execute when the CLI is executed without any arguments. So and I have the concept of config, right? As mentioned over here, that you can load a config from the JSON file, and the config have a certain type, right? So in this version, I am using the type plus type utility to define the config type. So once I define it, I want to use the type that is the result of the type. Well, how should I say it? So this is a type checking utility for this T under type plus. And what it can do is it can check if a certain input satisfy a certain type shape, and using the syntax provided here, and then the config will be narrowed down to the type that's satisfying the that type definition, right? So that's how, you know, to get the type, that's how it define, well, describe it over here. So generate the type from the input, right, from the this type checking syntax. So what I got here is an example of so they get the CLI, I load the config. So once in the config, I describe the type of the config would be an object, and then inside the object it has a property A, and it is a string, right? Any string. So then what I get from here is inside the type, inside this run function. So this command have this run function, and this has a property config with the type config. So you will see here is actually typed to the shape I defined over here. So that's the one of the main objective I try to get. Right. So you can see that this is working with this kind of type inference shenanigans, and so yeah. So for this is essentially the same thing, but it's just a little bit more complicated because it involves this config type and allow you to pass in this information, which allow me to further configure this and configure the return type. And the special things of these functions compared to this one is, besides removing the config, it also removing the low config, it also removing the config property, so that I can replace it with the new configuration that I have. So this is the part that I said in the beginning that this likely would not work in class syntax. And also, for one thing, is that in the class syntax you cannot really define a generic type to describe this param. Right. So at least as far as I know. So yeah. So all this is working, and at the end of this, I get just the property remaining, and you can also see the config over here is also typed correctly. So that's it for this video, and I hope you enjoy this. And I forgot to turn on any music, so that's okay. Yeah, so that's it. Hope you learned something, and hope you enjoy this, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.